Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. My name is Katana Malinowski, and I am the host of Transformational Art with Katana, making the unmanageable manageable. Welcome. Today, I have with me the beautiful Joy Rika Miyatake. She is a yoga therapist of the Joyful Awakening. Thank you for being here with me today, Joy.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm excited.
Great. Awesome. Well, today we're going to get to know all about you and what you do, which leads me to my first question is who is Joy as a person?
I love the question because it's so open-ended and I can use it to explore almost any aspect of myself, right? I can tell you that I'm a teacher of the healing arts. That's what I do. I work worldwide and I'm known for my work on gratitude, resilience, and making big dreams a reality. I am a world traveler. I am a spearfisher. I am a free diver. I am a photographer. I am a daughter. I'm a lover. And I'm a good friend. And I am a student of life. And I am a gardener. And it's a lot of things. I guess I'm a Renaissance woman.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can resonate with that. I wear a lot of different hats myself. Some I have yet to reveal to everybody, but others will unfold as time prevails. Um, what makes you happy?
Okay. On this very small level, cat videos make me happy. Like I'm just gonna let it be honest. Like I do. They really do. I don't know what about it, but just like watching a small cat video makes me happy. um Taking a really good photo, like when it's like, ooh, yeah, that shot, when you have a piece of art that you're creating and you just feel like you got it. Uh
Yes.
Watching my clients make a huge leap in their lives makes me happy. Um, Mostly my morning routine makes me really happy. I keep a
Mm.
list of things that I'm grateful for every day. So when you ask me if I'm happy, I didn't even think about it, but I could just go straight to my what did I journal about today? Going to the gym and working out makes me happy. Meditating, it makes me, I don't know if happy is the right word, but it makes me appreciative of my
Mm.
happiness because I'm a little bit more mindful of what times that I am happy. So I
Mhm.
can achieve more happiness.
Yes. And happiness, more happiness is always a good thing.
Happiness is an interesting word. I was just reading a book on um, about what it means to be happy, and it means that it's fleeting. It means that you're very aware of how fleeting happiness is. Like the moment you have it,
Mhm.
as soon as you're aware of it, it's almost like you become conscious of it disappearing or going away from you.
Mm.
And as a child, you're easily in it and you're chasing one thing after another, like happy, happy, happy. And it's easy to be, you laugh more as a child. And as an adult, we get a little jaded because you see, oh, like I'm going to chase that and it's going to go, because you know that
Yes.
happiness is fleeting. And I think it's our responsibility to keep it in mind and continue the pursuit of it, right?
Yes. Uh, I don't remember who it was that was saying to me not too long ago that, and it may have been AG, who we both know, and I want to give a shout out to. He's an awesome business coach. I believe it was AG that said that joy is like the rays
Yeah,
from
I can
the
explain it. Yeah. He's like, happiness is being warmed by the sun, and joy, or sustainable joy, as I call it, is being the sun.
yes. And I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
And doing art and that creative mode and helping clients at the same time is all that wrapped up for me as well. I can appreciate what you were saying about that. On the flip side, what is it that makes you angry or sad?
Hmm. It's I still get very sad and very frustrated when I witness people that I absolutely love, and watch them get in their own way. And I'm
Mm,
sure that has to do, we what we see, we often are in ourselves. So I'm sure I'm getting in my own way at times. And yet, oh my God, does it break my heart when I hear somebody say, well, I can't do that. And I'm like, but you can. And I've cried about it a few times when I've witnessed a friend of mine or somebody close to me. And I think it's right there. Like, all you need to do is to have the faith to accept that you just take that next step, whether it is that you believe that you can do it or not. I mean, is that the faith aspect is that one. So I guess lack of faith makes me sad. Lack of faith makes me sad because it's something that I struggled with for such a long time.
mhm.
In fact, my background is in religious studies. So what I say is that I've studied faith. I've studied its faith is like leaping over a cliff. And I've studied the people who have made the leap. I've studied their trajectory. I've studied the types of runs that they've done. I've studied what they wear when they jump off the cliff. I just haven't made the jump myself because I didn't have faith.
Mm,
And when I worked with coaches that, that were like, all right, now it's time to jump. And I'm like, well, what? Time to have faith, right? Okay.
yeah.
I'm terrified. I don't want to jump off this cliff. And you do it a few times and you do it over and over. You learn to exercise and build that muscle of faith. And when you have that muscle of faith going in for you, it becomes so strong, you don't even realize that it's now in your nature to take those leaps, to take those jumps. And I guess when I witness someone, I'm like, oh, it's just a muscle. It's just a muscle. You exercise, you can do it. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's okay. They're going to learn on their own time and know that that eventually everyone's going to take that big leap and experience faith on their own, in their own time, in their own ways. So that it has made me sad historically. I guess I remember that's something that I've been upset by.
Oh, yeah. I've in the past I've done that where I've gotten in my way. Um, in my thought process. Obviously, as AG tells us, we can't get in our own way physically, but it's our limited mindset that'll hold us back. And it is sad to think that there may have been a lot of opportunities that were missed at a different time, and that can send people into that, well, what if mode. But the best part of it, of course, is that every day is a new chance to begin and take that leap. So that's something I definitely cling to. When you were growing up, what did you want to become?
Hmm. So two things came to mind right now. Um, I mean, it was first like when I loved playing. Okay, I'll go for the history. Like when you're a kid and you love playing in the dirt. When I
Mm-hmm.
was like maybe 5 or 6 years old, I wanted to be a paleontologist because I wanted to like dig in the dirt and look for dinosaur bones. And like explore the world and like just you love digging in the dirt. That was probably the first thing that I wanted to be. I remember I wanted to be a lawyer because I was like, I want to argue for a living. That sounds fun. And then I think I discovered, you take a history lesson, and I discovered the Renaissance, and I was like, wow,
Mhm.
Leonardo da Vinci, like I want to be like him, like a doctor and like you could do all the things and an artist, and so I wanted to be a Renaissance man, but a woman, but not a man. But like I assumed that Renaissance women didn't have as many rights as Renaissance men, so I wanted to be a Renaissance man, but a woman. And then when I was 13, I always tell this story. I was accepted into college at a very young age. And when I got to college, I took my first class. It was world religions. And I also took photography. And I was like, world religions, this is the most expansive, mind blowing thing that I could possibly imagine. People have perspectives, like different perspectives that they completely believe in all around the world. This is amazing. I wanted to teach that for a living. And I was like, this is the one thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. So around that age, I thought, that's what I want. I want to be a world religions teacher. And I pursued that until I went to graduate school and eventually moved into teaching yoga as just my preferred expression of what worked for me. So growing up, that's what I wanted to be: Renaissance woman and world religions teacher. I don't know if I'm kind of close.
I was just going to say that was what you described yourself earlier, the Renaissance woman.
Yeah, I don't go digging for dinosaur bones or anything like that. But
There's still time. There's still time.
yet.
um, how did you get on the path that you're on now?
Hmm. I think like a lot of people who work in healing, you have to have like some sort of big tragedy or big trauma where you lose sight of everything that's good in your life and you have to hit a rock bottom. So, we've gone through the dark night of the soul business. So I've definitely experienced that for a good number of years. And I think for people who know me now, they may have a hard time seeing that in me. They're like, oh, I identified as a drug addict for more than 10 years of my adult life.
Mhm.
And I was a pill popper and consumer of anything that I could get my hands on.
Mm.
And it was because I'd go to doctors and doctors would say, oh, well, you're not sleeping. You should take this medicine. Oh, you're feeling anxiety. You can take this medicine for that. You're seeming to be depressed. Maybe you should take a medicine for this. So I was prescribed medication over and over again until I was sleeping 16 hours a day and unable to really make coherent sentences. And for a long time, I didn't know if I would ever get my mind, like the mind that I had growing up, back. And that honestly is what got me on the path of my own healing,
Mhm.
because I started to teach yoga while I was on the medications, and my body was working, but my mind was very foggy. And then one day I decided that I would figure out a way to get off of the medications. And I started to look at alternatives. My aunt talked to me about anti-inflammatory diet, and so I adopted a new way of eating. I started working as a yoga therapist,
Mhm.
or working within, actually I worked as a personal trainer first. And then I found a class called Healing Trauma Through Yoga.
Mm.
And when I took that class, I thought, oh, it was a big revelation. Right? I wasn't an addict. I was severely traumatized, and I wasn't dealing with the aftermath of the experiences. I was
Mm.
internalizing everything. So it was showing up as pain throughout my body. It was showing up as arthritis. It was showing up as carpal tunnel. It was showing up as nerve pain down from my neck. There were days that I couldn't even get out of bed. And as I was doing the inner work of healing the trauma aspects of my life, I began to incorporate or be more fully myself. I was able to move around in the world just little by little. So going through great difficulties is how I got onto the path I was on. Isn't that is there a similar theme to your interviews? You hear that?
Actually, yes. And of course, that's how I got on my path of using transformational art. And I mean, what you do and what I do are very similar. We're helping people transform through alternative modalities, and they're all art forms. And I love that. I love that we take the whole body health aspect into what we do, and we help people step away from the medications and the traditional talk therapy. And that's not to say that doesn't have its aspects. I mean, I did that for 22 years, but it wasn't enough. And they did give me medications when I really didn't need them, and they actually did a lot of damage.
Mhm.
So I can appreciate that aspect as well. And um, the work that I do was developed in helping myself overcome those things that the Western traditional medicine program could not, and approach could not themselves help me with. So yes, and that's pretty much everybody that I've spoken with so far does have that in their toolbox, is to where they're at now and where they came from. Yeah. Um, do you see all the challenges that you've gone through as a gift to teach you invaluable lessons?
Resoundingly yes. Like yes, absolutely. I would not be here today if it weren't for every single challenge that I faced. And so it's almost like I embrace the challenges now, because it's like, who's the new version of myself going to be in like a year from now with all these challenges that I'm having today? Like, I
Mm,
know that as much as I work through now, as much as I see and experience challenge, as much heartbreak and challenge that I experience, it's like, I am going to get through this and see who's going to be on the other side, right? It's like
yes,
burn away that part of me that's no longer serving me anymore.
that's fantastic. You were talking about just a moment ago in the last part we were on, with how you got on your path. And you talked about how the past traumas were manifesting themselves into other aspects of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind talking a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, because I honestly wish I knew it, right? Like, I think one of
Mhm.
your questions you've asked me before, that comes up, is what would you tell yourself in the past? And it's like, man, do I wish that I knew these things, that I would have known some of the things that I knew about my body and how it worked, and the emotions that I've stuffed down and didn't process and allowed to manifest through body things. I laugh. Um, I laugh, but I don't mean to. I laugh because it's tragedy plus time.
Yeah.
And it's been it's been a lot of time, but man, during the time it was tragedy. I almost can feel for if I was talking to myself back then, I wouldn't laugh. I wouldn't
Right.
laugh at all, because I know how hard it is, right? Like, to that former self of mine, to have gone through everything that she's gone through, and to experience everything that she's gone through, and to be in so much pain, and to be so confused, and to be so to feel so much hurt, and to feel a lot of blame, and not experiencing these emotions fully, and and being able to hear them.
Hmm.
And how it manifested is, um I had skin problems, I had weight gain problems, I had nerve problems, I had pain problems, I had um like I guess joint issues, if I didn't say that one already. And doctors just kept putting me on pain pills. And they said, "Oh, it's we can't do anything except for ease the pain." And those are the best tools that I had then. And I have um no regret of that experience, because
Yeah.
who putting me through that, or letting myself go through that, allowed me to be as compassionate as I am today. And I mean, the work that I've been doing for the last 5 years, I've worked with Cambodian genocide survivors, I've worked with veterans with PTSD, and I've worked with
Hmm.
people who have had severe trauma in their lives. And I know that if I didn't go through it myself, I wouldn't be the right teacher and the right role model.
Yeah.
So what I would say to myself, and it's, oh, it's always kind of funny because it's like, what would you say to yourself? Or what I would have done is what I would have listened to myself. I would have encouraged myself to speak it, to speak what I was going through, because instead of speaking it, I was stifling it.
Mm.
And I would like to have helped my earlier self process what I was going through on a emotional, spiritual level that I just had no awareness of now, right? And it's funny because in some of the visions that I have for myself today, when I go through things that I'm still going through, I see that my higher self is pulling me through this experience, and I can feel the guidance like
Mm.
of my highest self pulling me through and saying like it's going to be okay because on this other side like
Hmm.
all right, gotta have faith and trust that I'm on the path right now, and I'm accepting of that.
That's beautiful. Who would you say was most influential in making that transformation?
Like my teachers.
Yeah, out of the people that helped you transform from being in that space of pain and just kind of being stuck to bringing you back to life.
Sure. Okay. So actually it's amazing because I do journal about this so often because almost on a daily basis, I am grateful for my teachers, like the one-on-one coaches that I've had, the yoga therapist. My first yoga therapist is Robert Bernberg, who himself was going I'm laughing because like he tells these stories. It's like I was a crack addict for 20 years and now he's 10 years of traveling back and forth to India, and now he's living in Australia. I met him when he was
Mm,
here in Silver Lake, Los Angeles, and worked with him. I just the benefit of being able to be in his to say, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And just allowing him to be for me to be an empty cup, because I came in thinking I knew something about Buddhism because I did my master's and I
mhm,
studied in India. I'm like, okay, empty that cup, whatever I thought I knew. Let's learn something new. And
mm.
learning something new about myself through his lens, the lens of yoga therapy that he was teaching me, allowed me to see the future visions for myself. And I'm also going to give out a shout out to Tiffany Scott, who's in the Movement Makers, the program that we met through.
Mhm.
She's my first like transformational coach, I guess.
Wow.
And I didn't know what I was getting into when I worked with her. I really didn't. But the tools that she taught me, I still know the tools that I use and I teach today. One of the most powerful tools that I've had, obviously, AG Marshita. Like he
Mm.
is another wonderful light in this world that I have the benefit of being around. I recently worked with Leah Dunlop, and I give credit to my teachers. I really
Yeah.
do. I have learned something from each person that I've worked on, especially on the one-on-one basis. When I work one-on-one, I find I just get a little bit more, and I've just been very lucky. So those have been my coaches in the industry, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, the mentors and the coaches that help us find that in ourselves, because that's really what they're doing, is they're helping us to shine that light on what we have in ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. And it's so amazing. And I can remember my first mentor was my fifth grade teacher,
Mhm.
and then a police officer. And if it wasn't for those two people showing me compassion and kindness in the way that they did, I probably wouldn't be here today. I really believe that. And of course, everybody that's come after that, Rhonda Britton AG and Tiffany Scott, as you mentioned. And then all of you that I've had the most amazing opportunity to co-create with and be on this journey of creating ourselves has definitely transformed my life. So I want to thank you for that as well. So tell us all about your business.
The joyful awakening. I say it as I am creating it, and it is an evolution, right? I'm in the industry of transformation. I told a friend earlier, I'm in the industry of transformation, so I'll be evolving. Just stay tuned and keep your eye out as I evolve my business, as I evolve myself, and move in directions that I have faith in, absolutely, and I am guided in, absolutely, and I also will be just a surprise to see as you because I know it's coming and I feel it coming and I work on it daily. Meaning I work one-on-one with clients, I work with groups and clients, and I host retreats. And I absolutely love what I get to do. So what it looks like and what the results are people moving through their own junk. Oftentimes what I've called it is intergenerational trauma, but what it is really is just, it's in yoga we call it vasana, and VASANA. So vasanas are inherited perspectives and mindsets and beliefs about ourselves that are not necessarily ours. Mm. In in neuroscience, I guess it would be the neural pathways. Mm-hmm. Something that we've ingrained and walked through so often that the path is well treaded. So it's an internal belief system. And whether that is a belief about trauma that we've inherited, whether it's a belief about money that we've inherited, whether it's a belief about ourselves that we've inherited, it can be bulldozed through. It can be circumvented. Another tool in yoga is we call it vinyasa krama. So I'll explain it quickly. There's 4 ways to get there, right? This is a yoga sutras technique in the sutras, written long time. You can be born that way. And it's like, be careful with people who are born that way, because if you're born that way, they're going to be like, oh, it's easy. You just be. And you're like, what do you mean just be? And when I'm just being, I'm just going to go and do I'm just going to go to the doctors and he's going to tell me what to do. Like, that's me being. Like, that doesn't work for me. So watch out for the gurus. They're going to tell you it's easy. And then the second one is you can use soma according to the sutras. If you go to the person who is the herbalist, and they'll give you the medicine to take, and you're now taking the medicine to balance. You can balance by the plants. There is mantra. And even modern science, if you're interested, like on polyvagal theory, there's a lot of evidence on why chanting works. So there's chanting. And then there's the yoga method, which is what I call vinyasa krama. And it's creating a pathway to the top of the mountain. And the top of the mountain is your peak experience, right? So that you may think you've experienced something like, oh, you get moments and glimpses of it, right? And maybe you're in a flow of creating artwork. Maybe you're in the flow of creating something, and it's like that glimpse of your peak of who you are, that higher self. And the krama, vinyasa krama, is this pathway. So just like in traditional yoga, or not traditional, but like, let's call it the box gym yoga, where you're like, oh, they're doing a headstand, I want to do a headstand. You start off with, okay, let's learn the inversion first. Like, your head is below your heart in the downward facing dog. Okay, now you're going to learn how to build your arm strength. It's another, and now you're going to learn this other aspect. And so you keep learning these until you get to the top. In yoga therapy, or in what I teach, we're learning relationship tools, we're learning communication tools, we're learning all of these step-by-step processes to get to your peak experience without falling off the mountain. So the issue is, if you take a soma to get to the top of the mountain, either you're reliant on the soma, or you you come off of it and you fall right back down, and you don't know how you got back up without taking something again.
Mm.
And then so it's like as if the previous path only went right here, but your new path is carving out into the mountain
Right.
and way to the top. And once you and there will be times inevitably where you're going to experience a fall. You lose somebody close to you in your life, and you're going to fall. You feel like you fell, but you have a really strong pathway spiraling back to top of the mountain. So that's what I teach. I'm hoping that's clear. Did that make
Oh,
sense?
it did make sense. And I love it because it's similar to what I do. I help make the unmanageable manageable. And
Mhm.
I help people build those tools, put the tools in their toolbox that when, you know, life happens and those things that are going to stress you out are going to happen. As you mentioned, lose someone, or maybe a job or something else that's somewhat traumatic and stressful. The idea is that they'll have the tools to be able to manage that, so it won't have that same impact anymore,
Exactly.
or
We're tools
shorter.
teachers.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I just teach tools too. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I don't
exactly.
believe I'm a healer as much as a teacher of the arts.
Yes. Yes. And I love that there's so many different modalities out there for people to embrace, because I don't think that any one thing is a one size fits all. And so that's really, really awesome. No, I really like that. And you're so right about the path. You build that foundation, and as long as that foundation is in place and those new neuro pathways are there, when stuff happens, you'll be able to draw on that, and you'll be able to get through and get back to the beginning over there and go back up through your path that you've created yourself with the help of people like ourselves. So what would you describe as your superpower?
Hmm. It's an interesting terminology, right? Because superpower
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, let's just quickly define what this, I think superpower means almost something that you're unaware of that's innate. Is that right?
Yes, it's what comes easy for you and may be difficult for others.
I'm stalling a little bit on it because what comes to mind is not something that, I would necessarily go around and be like, oh, I'm so good at this and that. It's more of what other people have experienced around me and through me that I think would be the reflective superpower, right? Uh, what do you think my superpower is?
That's a little bit on the cheating side, but
Okay.
from my perspective, I would definitely say that it's in helping people like myself and the position that you were in, that are experiencing difficulties with their body, manifesting issues that make it either impossible or near impossible to function physically,
Mhm.
and help them find a natural pathway to being a healthy self.
Yes. So that is one of the things that I do. And I'm just trying to still I'm stalling, so I'm still trying to articulate it because I know that that is generally the experience that people have when they work with me.
Mm-hmm.
So will can give an example of a few clients that I've worked with and how they've experienced the superpower that I have as that. How
Mhm.
about that?
Sounds
Okay.
great.
So I worked with a client, I'll call her KT, and she is a Cambodian genocide survivor. She witnessed the horrific tragedies of the Khmer Rouge genocide
Mm.
and watched her parents both starve to death. And I tell her story publicly because this is something that she enjoyed having shared and she has benefited from so greatly. Is that when we first met, she told me all about her grandson who she wasn't able to go visit because politics, because weather, and she had all sorts of reasons. And as we identified the cause of the trauma as the basic reason, not necessarily the real reason, but the perceived reason, we got to do work on that until one day we got her to actually get to Cambodia and her grandson sending me photographs of like, look at this is amazing. She's finally visiting and I get to visit, I get to meet her. So I get to experience that on that level. It's like watching that transformational. I also had my most recent client work with me who isn't able to get out of bed, who was unable to get to work, who had been diagnosed with a chronic vertigo so that he but in a non treatable Western way.
Mhm.
Doctor's like, we can't do anything for you. There's nothing there. Sorry. And he's like, well, now what? So I worked with him for a couple of years until he was able to go off on his own. He recently came back from visiting Thailand for 1 month. He can go into work, although working from home is the norm now due to COVID. And um, most recently, I was on a trip to Italy and interacted with somebody on a very brief video call level. And I get a call back, I think it's about 2 months later, just a check in my PayPal and saying like, Joy, I know I just wanted to thank you. Our conversation has changed the trajectory of my life. I am just, uh, I'm so grateful for the work that we got to do with each other. Even if it was just a phone call, it's completely changed my perspective. And I know that on a level, that is part of my superhero power, right? And on another level, it's like, I don't want to be conceited and be like, yeah, I change lives. That's my superpower. I trans- in a spark, in an instant, my superpower is what we call in human design the right angle cross of penetration. So I have the honed in ability to, um, it's a it's almost like a curse because it's like a color that I can it's a curse blessing thing. It's a
Yes.
color that I can see as clear as day and I can understand and just get right to it, right to the heart of the matter in an instant and say the exact right thing to wake someone up just like that. And it's unfortunate because not everybody wants to be woken up. It's kind of a uncomfortable thing. You'd rather stay asleep, right?
At times it does feel that way. Sometimes I think we perceive being asleep in that proverbial sense as an easier place to come from. But when you heal and when you get stronger and you really start to own yourself and you look back, you think, actually that wasn't such an easy path to be on, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you look at your health and the relationships and your finances and all of it together. You're just like, wow, I wish I had had this sooner. But we are given the opportunities when we're supposed to have them. I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And the right people in the right places at the right time.
Amen.
So, since we're coming up on the end of our time together, the last question I have for you, which we've kind of explored a little bit back and forth, but what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Is it like, is it only like as if I'm a person who is able to only emit, or do I get a back and forth? Do I get a conversation?
Yeah, it's you having that conversation with your 18-year-old self and going, if there's one thing I could share with you.
Okay, so it's a more of a this direction than a this and that. Because I'm like the gut part of me wants to listen. I would
Mm,
have really wanted to listen to what my 18-year-old self said and then have a conversation. I
mhm.
suppose the like if I was like a light being coming down to my former like my younger self, and like, don't worry, I'm pulling you through to the other side. The kind of guidance that I'm receiving now, I'm like, there's something very very comforting in the faith.
Mm,
There's something very comforting in faith.
that's beautiful. Well, unfortunately, we are at the end of our time together today. So, how can these amazing people reach out to you and connect with you?
Oh, I do have a website that will be having my times available. And if you are very interested in a one-on-one call with me to see if the work that I do resonates with me, you can check my website out at joyrika.com. And if it's a new website, I will also put that on the list. There's also, please add me on Facebook. I love having new friends, especially if you've watched the whole of this interview and you thought, this is something kind of cool. Please reach out. Even if we don't work together, it's really wonderful to be in dialogue with the energy of somebody who resonates, right? So if my work resonates with you, reach out, you add me on Facebook, you can follow me on Instagram, you can check out my website, you could say hi to me. But yeah, I would offer anyone who's watched the entirety of this call one-on-one session with me just to see if this is a this to see where you are in your journey. I value these calls at $450. So for anybody in your tribe that wants to listen, that wants to be heard and wants to share part of their story with me, I would love to hear it. I'd love to learn more about you and where your journey is, and how we can support each other.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be here today and share you with me and the rest of the world. And I look forward to having more conversations in the future.
It's my pleasure.
Have a
Thank you.
beautiful day. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Transformational Art with Katana. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and share the link to this podcast with your family and friends. To connect with me personally, please send an email to transformationalartwithkatana@gmail.com. Have a beautiful day.